So, maybe you're not very familiar with Sapulpa Church of the Nazarene. Let me just tell you this. At Sapulpa Church of the Nazarene, probably because the pastor is a simple man, we try to keep things really simple, just so I can understand and keep pace with everybody and know what's going on. And so, as a church, we like to keep things really simple. And our mission around here is very simple. It's this right here. Our mission as a church is to see one more life transformed by grace. That's it. When we show up for worship, when we meet in groups, when we're teaching kids in Sunday school or kids' activities, this is it. To see one more life transformed by grace. And then once we see that life transformed, this is still our mission. It's one more. It's one more and one more. We are after transformation as a church. That's what we're aiming at as a church. One life at a time as the result of the grace of God. So today we celebrate the ways in which we have been transformed as a church. And as we do, there's a scripture that sets this up well. The Apostle Paul, he's writing about the advantage that Jesus brought to us. He's telling us about the new covenant. So when Jesus came, he made a way for all new things and new possibilities and the value of Jesus. And Paul is arguing for this. He's explaining the new benefits that we experience now that Jesus has died and rose from the grave. The grace we find in the crucified Messiah. And this is what he says in 2 Corinthians 3. And we all, with unveiled faces reflecting the glory of the Lord, which is a cool line. We have nothing in between us and the Lord now. We're face to face. And when we see the Lord, we actually reflect his image out into the world. But look at this next line. We are being transformed into the same image of Christ from one degree of glory to another. Being transformed in the same image from one degree of glory to another, which is from the Lord. It's not our own doing. It's from the Lord who is the Spirit. And I love the language of transformation here. By God's Spirit, we are being transformed into the image of Jesus. From one degree of glory to another. And I hope you hear the good news of hope in that statement. There's a lot of hope wrapped up into this. We are all on a journey of transformation. And it all starts with this moment of initial belief. This moment where we surrender ourselves to Jesus and place your trust in him for the forgiveness of sins and also surrender your life to him forever. And this year, I am excited to announce that we had 6 first-time decisions of faith as a part of this church. Yeah, that's worth clapping for. We had 4 kids, 1 teenager and 1 adult, profess for the first time their faith in Jesus and start a life with him. That is good news. 5 of the 6 professions of faith happened on Easter morning. If you'll remember, we invited the community for an Easter egg hunt on Easter Sunday. We had a breakfast, and we had 7 guest families that gave us information. And Debbie, who works with our children, did a great job with the kids. 5 of the 6 professions of faith happened on that morning, friends and family. Then we had 3 people this year take the next step of faith and profess their faith in baptism. And we heard testimonies of transformation and celebration as they came up from the water, we believe, a new creation in the Lord. And if you've professed your faith in Jesus, but you haven't been baptized, that is your next step. Biblically, that is your next step, that you would give God the glory in your testimony and be baptized. And so we celebrated 3 of those this year. This spring, Debbie Martin, our children's ministry director, threw a spiritual birthday party. And you can kill the volume on that. We don't need to hear me talking. Thank you. She threw a spiritual birthday party, and here you have the kids releasing butterflies because she went through them in the discipleship process. She went through them with this idea that we become, or we start out as caterpillars, but we're transformed into butterflies as we give our life to Jesus. And so we had a party, and we marked times in our lives, spiritual birthdays and moments of transformation. And our kids began to make mile markers in their life of when Jesus has touched them and changed them. It's exciting to hear stories of faith coming from our children. Anybody else get excited about that? We had 11 kids engage in kids camp, 3 teens at teen camp, 34 kids join us for VBS. We are committed to our youth and our children, and we believe that the transformation they experience as young people can anchor their souls to Jesus for the rest of their life. This is a faith that Jesus said, if you want to know how it really looks and how to do it, if you want to experience that, you have to become like a child. Yet we know that the transformation by grace is more than a conversion experience, right? After all, we are transforming into the image of Christ 1 degree at a time, so each of us are in need of grace. Everyone who's gathered today is not beyond their need of grace. We all must be transformed by grace. We should be hungry for that transformation. We long to see one more life transformed by grace. So our church board gets away every fall, and as we do, we think about how our church can press into our direction and vision for the next year. And this year, following the format of Revelation chapter 3, where there's these letters written to churches. So it's like God is writing a letter to the church. The church board went through a process of trying to discern if God was going to write us a letter, our church, what would he say to us? Especially for the next year ahead. How would he encourage us? What would he point to as areas of need for transformation? It was our navigational map for this year, and this is what we came up with. The God who rattles dry bones in the valley and breathes new life into the weary. Hear the word of the Lord. I see the hard work you are investing in your foundation. You're building a team, transforming student and children's ministries, and seeking opportunities to practically love your community. You are committed to praying together. Yet, many are still disconnected from a place of ministry and a place of belonging. Your preferences still obstruct your guests. Your neighbors are strangers. So if you're listening, take the plunge. Commit to worship, what we're doing right now. Commit to ministry, find a place to serve, a team, and commit to a group. Because those who see a church as an opportunity to bless others, they will come alive. I will make you come alive. So this was our guiding document beginning in January after the board met. So in January, we launched our groups ministry. It was brand new to this church with 2 new adult groups meeting in homes and 3 adult Sunday school classes that meet here on Sunday mornings on campus. We averaged nearly 50 adults in weekly discipleship in January, February, March, and April. Many people engaging in our discipleship opportunities for the first time. Many others re-engaged in a group for the first time in a long time. And as we launch groups here in just a couple weeks with two more groups meeting outside of Sunday morning and 3 meeting on Sunday morning, as we prepare to launch, we know and we believe that plugging into a group is one of the best ways for you to be transformed by God's grace. There's something that happens when you get into community of a smaller group of believers. You begin to dig into the Bible and share life with one another. It's really about relationship as much as it is about cognitive knowledge or understanding. Because you might know something, but how do you work it out in your life? How do you take it from knowledge into the actions of your life? And we believe that these discipleship opportunities, these groups, are the best way for you to do that. And so as your pastor, if I could encourage you, please grab a catalog. If there's not a catalog close to you, grab one on the back table here, our info table, and find the group that works for you, that excites you, and plug in and give it a try. We're going to do a Journey of Grace, which is our theme for this fall, and the whole church is studying the same topic. And it's an 8-week series. My belief is you can do almost anything for 8 weeks. And so we hope you will jump in and go for it and take a chance and see how God might use groups to bring about transformation in your heart. Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else appreciate their group? Okay, good. So we also had many people plugging into new areas of ministry. These are some of the areas we had new people serving for the first time this year. People serving food at Easter, serving in the sound booth, working with our kids, serving at VBS, helping with the 100-year celebration, and people leading worship. All of those areas had new people for the first time serving at Sapulpa Nazarene Church in those areas this year. That's awesome. We hope that every person finds a place of ministry, because we believe it's much more than filling the gaps in the church. So, though the church is a volunteer organization, the reason we ask people to serve is not just because we have a need for serving. But if you want to look at Christ, who we're trying to become, and identify what is core to his identity, you cannot get far without realizing his whole life was about service. His whole life was about putting his needs on the back burner and giving his full self to other people. And so we actually believe around here that by serving in ministry, whether it's here at the church or around the community or in your neighborhood, you are becoming like Jesus. And that's why it matters so much to us. Christ served the church, and when we serve in ministry, we reflect that image of Christ. So I'm grateful for every person this past year who has stepped in and tried to plug in ministry this year. And some of you probably tried something that you didn't like, and that's okay. We'll find something else that suits your gifts and talents and keep on going. And can I just say, if you're not plugged into a place of service, would you come talk to me personally? You can just come up to me after the service and talk to me, or you can always email or text me, but I would be passionate about helping you find a place where you could serve and be transformed. Not only were you faithful to give of your time and your talent, you were faithful to give of your resources. Here's just a snapshot of showing some of our giving stats this year. You see there our church year income, which is awesome. Your generosity through the COVID pandemic, so many people losing jobs or work changing, and you guys have remained faithful to the Lord and to the church, and we're so grateful for that. But a couple things I want to highlight. Our faith promise giving is where we have a special emphasis on giving to world mission. So what's going on around the world, and how can we give of our resources to support world mission? And this year, we had 23 family units give in our faith promise pledging and faith promise giving. 23 different family units gave above and beyond their tithing to world missions. And you can see there, we had this really cool thing happen on our Faith Promise Sunday. We had a very generous donor say, whatever you raise, I'll match it 10 times. And we're going to send it off to Jesus Film, Nazarene Jesus Film. That's who was our Faith Promise speaker this year. So on Faith Promise Sunday, we raised $15,000. And then that generous donor came behind it and wrote a check for $150,000 on behalf of this congregation to the Jesus Film Ministry, Nazarene Jesus Film Ministry. That's pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. And I'm just as excited about both of those numbers, 15 and 150. We were able to bless that ministry. If you look at what we've given to local and global missions, it's $203,000 and some change, because you're passionate about supporting the work of the gospel around the world. That's awesome. That is awesome. We gave away 100,000, I shouldn't say gave away. We started an endowment this year. And so we gave the SNU, Southern Nazarene University, we started an endowment with them. We started with a $100,000 gift. And this is going to be a scholarship that every year spits out a scholarship to a student studying missions at Southern Nazarene University. This will go on for forever. Every year we're going to spit out a scholarship of hopefully somewhere between $3,000 and $6,000 to support somebody on the mission field. And we did that on our 100-year celebration. Not only those big gifts, but the giving that we do to Caring Community Friends and other organizations in the community. We stepped up our giving to the foster care system in the area, and they have a really cool program that we have invested a lot of money in this year. We did a second pizza and prayer where we invited the community to our property and gave them a pizza and prayed for them. And then this church is always faithful in local benevolence, helping our community. We also, this year, renovated our family life center, and we added an elevator and redid our children's department. If you haven't been downstairs, you got to go downstairs. That's where the children are at to see the renovations. But you can just see briefly some before pictures on the left and just the new, vibrant, updated kids ministry area downstairs after the renovations. And if you look at the bottom right-hand picture, you see the elevator there that we added this year. All of this is possible because you've been generously obedient to sacrifice on behalf of this church. And here's what's really cool about that to me. We talked about this some last week. But your generosity is a clear sign of both transformation and grace. Because you don't become a generous person by default. You don't. You become a stingy person. So God's grace is working in you, and you have been transformed, and praise be to God for the things that we have accomplished through your generosity. Last but not least, this year was a year of celebration, specifically 100-year celebration. We turned 100 years old. Do you guys feel that old? Kind of? Sounds like you kind of do. You kind of feel that old. We turned 100 years old, meaning we've had ministry on this corner in Sapulpa for 100 years. And we had a huge celebration this year. We welcomed back 7 former senior pastors or their families and a bunch more former staff members. We fed roughly 400 people over 2 meals and had a wonderful legacy room where we looked through pictures and articles and documents. We had a worship choir, a scholarship giveaway, and a message from one of our general superintendents, Dr. David Graves. We celebrated with 275 people in worship that morning, which was a lot of fun, wasn't it? That was fun. And then we gathered outside to take this picture. And of course, all 275 don't stick around for the photo opportunity, but that's a good-looking group right there. That's our 100-year group. And this is a picture of hundreds of people who have experienced transformation and grace here in this local ministry. A picture of hundreds of people, different ages, different economic levels, different political leanings, different degrees of transformation. A picture of hundreds of people whose lives are forever changed by the grace of God and the ministry of this church. So Sapulpa Church of the Nazarene, when we look back today, we have reason to celebrate, don't we? We have reason to celebrate today. Yet here's the thing. We don't look on these things with a sense of our own accomplishment, but rather we look to these things in wonder and in awe of what God can do when He gets a hold of our lives. So today isn't even so much a celebration of our good works or what we've accomplished, but today is a celebration of God's grace. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 and 9, as the band comes back this morning. Listen to these words. For by what? Grace you have been saved through faith. And that not of yourselves. Can I just tell you that's really good news? That your salvation isn't dependent upon you. It is the gift of God, not as a result of the works that you've done, so that no one may boast. And so as we gather today to celebrate what's happened here at Sapulpa Nazarene, what we're really doing is gathering to celebrate the gift of God. That is His transforming grace.